Hey everybody, it is Garrett. That is dust on my bookshelf. I'm gonna have to go dust this off later. Anyways, I wanted to give some tips for getting started or getting on the move when it comes to writing when you have something like ADHD and whatnot. And because I know that a lot of people with ADHD will struggle with getting just started in general. And I think maybe one of the best ways to get started with writing stories, if you want to be that writer, if you want to be that poet, if you want to be that songwriter, yeah, even in any creative field, I think one of the most important ways to get started with things is to have maybe a new perspective on how the creative process is viewed. So when you're coming up in school, you tend to view the creative process as something very arbitrary, very just ephemeral, very much something that just comes out of like thin air, something that just is, and then snap your fingers and suddenly you have this idea and you start putting it down. Yeah, sometimes that will happen. Often the thing that will happen though is that the ideas that come quickly build up over time, or actually ideas that are built up over time. And so I wanted to present a way to write that stuff that is maybe a different way to think about it. So, way back when, like thousands of years ago, they wrote a poem called Gilgamesh. Maybe you have read it, maybe you've heard of it. I nicknamed it Gilga Smash. I don't know why. It's Hulk Smash. Like, that's the reference. Get those dirty thoughts out of your head. Anyways, so Gilgamesh. And the thing is that with Gilgamesh, the writing wasn't done succinctly. It was done in episodes, which is my first recommendation for trying to get started. Write things in terms of how they look as episodes, as scenes, as different character interactions, as different settings that change, things that morph and form and change over time. That's the best way that I can think to get those ideas flowing, because you want things to change. You can always add in more detail later. Although it might be hard to get back to it if you forget that you ever did it. But you can always add in more detail later if you remember it. If you don't remember it, sorry, there's not much we can do there. But you want to get like the skeleton down and then go into your detail. Or you get the full thing and go into the detail. But regardless of how it starts, doing something in a more episodic format allows you to work with little bits that just build one after the other. So you have your chapter 1, then you move into your chapter 2, then you move into your chapter 3, you move into your chapter 4, and so on and so forth. All those chapters are just episodes, even if they go from one thing to the next, or they go from one thing and then skip ahead and go from one thing to the next. Or the timeline is that it goes back in time. This is still episodic. Like a flashback, or foreshadowing. Right. So that's one way. The other way is to go off of words and ideas. So let's say I mention the word wizard. I'm just literally just seeing the word wizard off of this short little book by Scholastic, not Scholastic, but by Deborah Doyle and James MacDonald, The Wizard's Apprentice, Secret of the Tower. You get that one word, and you go at coming up with something from that one word. It might end up being about goldfish. It might end up being about sharks who can use stabs and don't live in the water but live on the land, and they've somehow taken over the entire Earth and planet. And that seems like a wonderful idea. Maybe I'll do that in the future. I don't know. I'll write a book about sharks that take over the world and use stabs and are wizards. But anyways, use the words, use the things around you for reference, just to come up with something, anything. And yeah. And then another way is to maybe just mind map, like just jot down all the random thoughts you get. And if you can't think of those thoughts in the moment that you're writing them down, just try and get as far as you can. But here, let's go to a fourth thing, because that one doesn't always work either. The fourth thing is to, oh my gosh, I forgot. Wow. Okay, hold on. We have episodic formats. Um, wow, I forgot. This is wonderful. See, this is ADD in like full swing, and it's so lovely. Yeah, but it will come back to me in just a few seconds because I had it at the tip of my tongue. It's just, yeah, trying to split things, break things down. That's a common piece of advice. You don't always have to break things down into 1,000 smaller steps. Often you could just break it down from like one step into like two or three. Like maybe you start with write paragraph one, and then you move to write paragraph two. Maybe you go with paragraph one, skip to paragraph 10, which might be your last paragraph, and then move back up and keep going through the middle. Again, try and break up how you actually do these tasks and do these things when you approach writing creatively or doing creative endeavors. And then the other thing, I guess, as well, is that, yeah, of the ideas, the idea came back to me. Of those ideas that you come up with, not everything is going to be exactly the way you want it. Of the things that you put out, maybe you might be happy with 50% of what you put out. You might be happy with 25%. It's not necessarily about the happiness, it's more about just the satisfaction of doing the thing and then bringing it to a level of completion that you think it is finished at. You know, don't pay attention to people who say it's not done. Bring it to the level of completion that you feel you need to bring it to, and then be satisfied with that. And if you need to add on more later, maybe you do. If you don't, then it's done and you move on. So, yeah. I hope this video helps. It's nice to talk about creative stuff. If you ever have any creative projects to share or anything that that you're working on that you'd love to just brag about or talk about or just gush about, please leave them in the comments and maybe like the video, maybe subscribe. Who knows? See ya.